Hello, I'm meteorologist Brad Warner for Region Weather Live, your YouTube source for weather across the Dakotas and Minnesota. And apparently I took my vacation at just a little bit of a wrong time because we're going to have a little bit of snow coming through and our coldest temperatures of the season. And so what we've got going on at the upper levels is just a series of disturbances kind of coming through our region from west to east. And basically what that's going to do is just bring us a couple of chances of snow, particularly late Tuesday night in through Wednesday and kind of lingering on into Thursday. And then we've got a chance, we're going to be kind of watching this deeper system that digs going into Friday and Saturday just to see if some of that snow on this system that's expected to dig southward might bring some snow across portions of Minnesota as well. And then also, obviously, the other thing that it'll bring that everybody's talking about is the cold temperature. And we're able to get just a little better sense of where that cold air is coming from by looking at the temperatures 5,000 feet above the ground. And as we go through the week, you can see those colder temperatures continue to sink southward across the Dakotas and Minnesota and really just linger there. In fact, we get another reinforcement possibly coming next week as well. So we're really not going to dig out of this anytime soon the way it's looking. And so while we're going to have a few chances of some light snow and possibly a little heavier snow, it just depends on how this system pulls out late into the week. And by the weekend, we also are going to have that cold air continue to wrap back in. Boy, you could see this as we go into next week. Also, this cold air wraps back around and sinks back into our region. We might be in for just a little bit of a warm-up going into the weekend warm-up, and I'll show you that in a little bit. But ultimately, we got that cold air swinging back around by next week once again. All right, let's take a look at the timing of some of the snow that's expected to move across our region. Here we are Wednesday morning, right around 6 a.m. We've got that snow basically across eastern Dakotas and across southern parts of South Dakota by this point. Once we get to about noon time frame, that snow increases just a little bit more, especially across eastern parts of South Dakota. But again, not a whole lot. It's just going to be very light in nature. And the other good thing is you take a look at the isobars, not a whole lot of wind, maybe a little bit more on the backside of it in southwest North Dakota, northwest South Dakota by about noon on Wednesday. That might pick up some of the gusts just a little bit, but ultimately you can see the snow is actually out ahead of where the windier conditions are. As we get to about 6 p.m. Wednesday evening, that snow continues to linger across the northern parts of North Dakota, northwest Minnesota. And because of that linger, that's kind of why some of these areas, particularly across the north, might pick up just a little more snow. Not that it's going to be heavy, it's just going to linger around a little bit longer than some other areas. Now, also note we got just a weak disturbance that pulls out a little bit earlier Wednesday evening, moves off to the north and east, perhaps bringing some snow across southeastern parts of Minnesota as well. By midnight, Wednesday night, Thursday morning, again, here we are. That snow just kind of continues to linger. We might have a little bit of a fetch going off the lake as well, so perhaps a little bit of enhancement just off the north side of Lake Superior. And then as we get to 6 a.m. on Thursday morning, again, that snow just hanging on in there, just lingering there. Perhaps a little bit stiffer winds out of the northwest across northern parts of North Dakota, but we're not expecting anything that's in the 40 mile per hour range. The gusts ultimately are going to be 30, perhaps 35 miles per hour at times, but and that will obviously blow some snow around, but at least it's not going to be the real strong winds that reduce the visibilities down to zero. Now moving on, by Thursday around noon, snow just continues across the north. And once we get to Thursday evening at about 6 p.m., decreases just a little bit again, perhaps a little bit of enhancement just along the North Shore. There is a possibility that some of the snow could start leaking into southern parts of Minnesota by Thursday evening already. And by midnight, Thursday night, Friday night, and here we are Friday morning at 6 a.m. Again, perhaps some of this snow makes it just a little bit further north. And I'll show you the European model. Actually, we've been taking a look at the American model, but taking a look at the European model, you could see how this model is more aggressive across southern parts of Minnesota and perhaps even just a little bit windier as well. And again, we're not expecting real strong winds, but 30, 35 miles per hour. And of course, if you get some snow along with that, that will reduce visibilities and create slippery road conditions. by noon on Friday, the snow continues on, at least according to the European model. The European model much, much stronger and drives that snow just a little bit further back to the north and west from the center of the lows. Something the other models don't quite do, at least at this point. But I'm kind of taking a look at it just so you're aware that there is that possibility going into Friday of some snow, particularly across southern parts of Minnesota, and then eventually bleeding into eastern parts of Minnesota as well. We might also have some gusts again, 30, 35 miles per hour going into the later parts of Friday and going into Friday night. And here we are by Saturday morning. Perhaps some of those winds continuing on, as well as some of that snow showers. We're going to have to kind of keep an eye on that because the models really aren't in good agreement, and we'll just see how that pans out. But just so you know, there is that possibility of getting some additional snowfall across southern parts of Minnesota as we head on into the weekend. Now, once that system moves out, and by Sunday and going on into Monday and leaking on over to Tuesday, not a whole lot. We have this little clipper system perhaps by Tuesday that swings through the area. That's a long way out there. I'm not really quite trusting in this just yet, but do know that once this system moves through on Saturday, just depending on if they get any snow across southern parts of Minnesota, beyond that, Sunday, Monday, probably most of Tuesday, we're really not looking for much in the way of snow. Now, this is the forecast so far put out by the National Weather Service, and this goes out until Thursday evening at 6 p.m. We can see where some of the higher snow totals are across northeastern parts of North Dakota, northwest, far northwestern parts of Minnesota, where we get into that 4-inch range. So somewhere in that 2 to 4-inch range up and through this region. Elsewhere, most areas will be typically in that 1 to maybe 3-inch range. Very, very typical for a clipper type of system. The only other area, obviously, as I said before, is this region just off the North Shore here, where they could pick up as much as 8 inches. We'll see how that works out, but just kind of keep in mind maybe in that 4 to 8 inch mark is possible just off the North Shore of Lake Superior. Here's some of the potential wind gusts, at least according to the European model. And this is Wednesday evening, right around 6 p.m. Again, like I said, 30 to 35 miles per hour, midnight, Wednesday night, Thursday morning, Thursday around noon, Thursday evening. Really not a whole lot when it comes to wind, especially as we go through the day on Thursday. Now, again, just depends on how this system fires up on Friday and going into Saturday. We can see some of those winds begin to pick up across Minnesota and even as far back as parts of South Dakota, 35, perhaps reaching 40 miles per hour early Saturday morning. And then as the day goes on, Saturday, those winds are expected to pick up across, especially South Dakota here, where we're looking 40, 45, maybe even getting close to 50 miles per hour as the day progresses. And of course, the other thing to know, just because we do have that fetch off the Lake Superior here, we will have some of those stronger winds going into the weekend, 40, 45, maybe even 50 miles per hour as well. Something to keep an eye on. Always kind of one of those anomalies just off the North Shore where we get the lake effect snow. And of course, along with it, we get the stronger winds. And so things could be looking a little more interesting up there as we head on into the weekend. Your temperatures expected throughout the week. Here's your morning lows expected for Wednesday. You can see single digits to some negatives across the north. Your daytime highs for Wednesday generally in the 20s. We're going to be getting above freezing here in southwestern parts of South Dakota, but otherwise, like I said, mostly in the 20s elsewhere. Thursday morning lows, those negatives continue to dive southward where we're looking at -5, -10. Elsewhere, we're kind of in the teens as you head further east. And of course, your high temperatures for Thursday really not going to rebound much. In fact, a good part of northwest North Dakota is going to struggle to get above zero. Elsewhere, single digits across much of the Dakotas and then teens as you get into Minnesota. And by Friday morning, those below the donut readings continue to push eastward. -23, -15, -25. And of course, that's just the temperature. That does not include the wind chill. Possible wind chills by Friday morning. I mean, we're looking as low as -30 across the north. -30 across the north. Yes, you did hear that right. -20s across the South Dakota and much of the area, of course, below zero in the wind chill department. And as you would expect for Fridays, your highs, the temperatures are going to struggle to get above zero across much of western Dakotas. As you head east, it warms up just a little bit as you get into the teens to near 20 still. Saturday morning lows, again, this is just the temperature. This is not the expected wind chills. Wow, minus 25 to minus 27. We're getting close to minus 30 just on the temperature alone, not wind chills. As you head east, it warms up to negative 10, negative 8, negative 7. It's just going to be cold by the time you get to Saturday morning. And as you would expect, the wind chills for Saturday morning are going to be minus 35, minus 40, minus 43 degrees across parts of western Dakotas. Those high temperatures for Saturday really not expected to rebound a whole lot. Most areas really aren't going to get above zero. Sunday morning lows, the misery continues. Everybody well into the teens below the donut. Those wind chills continue to be in the minus 20s, the minus 30s to almost minus 45 degrees up in the northwestern parts of North Dakota. Sunday's highs, why do we live here, folks? This is the question you ask yourself at about this time of year when those highs are going to struggle to get above zero. Look at you in the banana belt down in southwestern parts of South Dakota. You get to get above for the 0 degree. I almost said freezing, not freezing. You almost get to get above the zero mark. Monday morning lows, again, well below zero once again. Those wind chills continue to be in the minus 20 to minus 30s, below zero. That's what we're talking about right now. And your high temperatures for Monday, above zero for pretty much everybody. It's a bit of a heat wave on Monday. In fact, down here in the banana belt in southwestern parts of South Dakota, you're going to get in the 20s. You're going to flirt maybe even perhaps with 30. And as I said, we do warm up just a little bit in the beginning of next week. Here is Tuesday going into Wednesday. Actually, Wednesday morning might be one of the warmer parts of the day going into Wednesday before it looks like the cold temperatures begin to drop back down in through the rest of next week. So a bit of snow and of course the cold temperatures, and a lot of times when you have such cold temperatures, we normally around here, we don't get a lot of precipitation. It's the cold high pressure systems that sink in out of Canada. Dry air, cold air really drops the temperatures around the area. And obviously it clears things out. It clears out the clouds. That's why what happens with these high pressure systems as well, clears out the clouds. So at night, especially, things really radiate off and just goes off into space, and we just really cool off and get cold. And we're going to be cold. We're not going to have a lot of precipitation, which is the benefit of this, but obviously just the chilly part. Don't know why I came back when I did. But with that said, it was, for those of you that care, it was a great cruise vacation. Highly recommended. If anybody's got any questions about that or ever wanted to take a cruise, let me know. Be sure to check out my other channel. I do have some cruising and some vacation videos on there. I'll eventually get to some of these videos posted on there as well, in case you're ever curious. Again, feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. Other than that, if you have any questions about weather, hey, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe down below, and then I will gladly answer any questions you might have in the chat, in the comments section, or if you get a hold of me on the social media sites as well. I'll be glad to answer any questions there. So, other than that, guys, boy, it doesn't look like I missed a whole lot other than, a big storm down in Sioux Falls. For those of you down in Sioux Falls, I hope you got through that okay. It looks like for the rest of the forecast, not much, and just some cold temperatures on the way. All right, I think I've babbled on long enough. All right, everybody, for Region Weather Live, I'm meteorologist Brad Warner. Everybody stay warm.